All right, I am live. All right, well today I'm kind of doing a little test here, so we'll see how it goes. Uh, this video is going to be about how I believe American women are completely and utterly insane. Uh, I have been dating for several years. Obviously since I was in high school, and I'm what 35 now, and I recently got married, probably about 2 years ago, and it was not to an American girl, thank God. But if you can just do the math there, that's about 16 years of solid experience, uh, and very many of them were negative, to say the least. And I could never really figure out what the problem was. Um, there we go. We got some light, so you can see my ugly face. Maybe the problem is my face. I don't know. But I didn't always look like this. When I was in high school, I was actually a pretty decent-looking guy. Um, nothing really. I wasn't, Luke Perry or anything crazy like that. But I was a good-looking guy, and most guys that looked like me really didn't have much of a problem with women. But I always seemed to have a problem, and I could never really put my finger on what the issue was. And it wasn't until I got into some of these videos and uh, blogs and websites that I really started to figure out uh, what the problem is. And I always thought the problem was me, and a lot of these other videos and blogs, many of the guys that created them have the same thoughts. They thought, hey, it's got to be me, maybe I need to go to the gym. Maybe I need to, dress a little more attractively, or maybe I need to go buy a fancy car, fast car, something to grab, the attention of women, and maybe that was the reason why they weren't getting the attention, was because they saw these other guys, who did have the nice cars and had the nice clothing, and they were getting the attention, but that was only part of the reason why those guys were getting that attention. It was just part of their whole persona. Um, but anyway, um, like I was saying, it wasn't until, and it actually wasn't until I had done some traveling. I'm in the military. I'm not going to tell you any specifics, but it wasn't until I really got a chance to travel outside the country um, that I really understood, that I really started to see um, what the problem was. I went overseas. My first assignment was to Korea, and it wasn't really the Korean women. Actually, the Korean women were very difficult to talk to because most of them don't speak English, and they're very nationalistic. They'll only date Korean men. So I didn't really have any luck with Korean women either. But it was the foreigners that were in the country, like the Filipino girls. And I'm not talking about the girls that are working in the bars. I'm talking about immigrants that are there, that are working in factories or whatever. Filipinos and Filipinas are renowned for traveling abroad for work, and no, not all of them travel as sex workers. There's a very large percentage of Filipinos and Filipinas that work overseas doing actual jobs, and they're sending money back home. I ran into this group, Filipinos, and I also ran into several other Asian type groups, Japanese, Thai, and even though it was kind of hard to find, there were some Russian women there too that were working. But when I ran into these women and I started, because many of them were a lot more easier to communicate with because many of them did have English as a second language. And in fact, in the Philippines, English is um, officially uh, the official language of the Philippines, along with Tagalog, which is Filipino. And in places like Russia, which is more close to the European part of the world, many of them do know English uh, just because of their proximity to Europe. And um, Japanese have been learning English for quite some time because they have uh, always thought that it would be uh, useful to them because they wanted to deal with the Americans. And so it was very easy when I went over there, when I was in Korea, to communicate with them much more than the Korean girls. And the thing that I noticed right off the bat was there wasn't with these women. It was so easy to talk to them. They didn't have this wall in front of them, um, and most of them are very beautiful girls. I mean, these are girls that would be on par with women that wouldn't even um, think twice to even talk to me in the States. And here it was just so easy to converse with them, and they didn't have any hang-ups or insecurities towards men like women in the States did, where a man approaches you in the States. If you approach a woman in the States and you try to talk to them, they think you're some kind of predator, pervert, rapist, or something. You know, that's the vibe you get when you talk to a woman in the States. Almost like she doesn't even. A lot of them don't even, you know, it's like you're diseased or something. They're just like, why are you talking to me? You know, and it just didn't seem like that at all. When I was, it was so easy to sit down and talk to them, find out who they were, and there was kind of a whereas when I was on a date with an American woman, I was always nervous, and it was, it was like, do I look all right, or is my, is my clothing not nice enough for this girl? Is she just not feeling me? It was always about how I was always worried how I looked to her, and it was my job to impress her and to win her over. But in the situation I found myself in while I was overseas in Korea, it was completely opposite. She was interested in me, and she was trying to impress me, and it was just so different. It's something that I just wasn't used to, and it felt more natural to me because uh, as a man, it's just something that is lacking in America. Is you just don't feel like uh, you're wanted, or that you really don't feel like anybody is really interested in you. When women are constantly walking around with these force fields over them, and you try to approach them, and they blow you off. Uh, you just you're you don't feel useful at all. You just feel like a complete waste. And I felt like a man. Like when I was on a date with these women, I felt like, wow, this woman is actually interested in me, and she is actually making an effort to make this date more about than just herself. She's asking me questions. She wants to know about me, and it's important to figure out things that I like, because those are things that she, what kind of foods I like, because she's interested in cooking me a meal or something, and that's just simply not something you get with American women. Um, and when I was sitting there with them, I also noticed that there wasn't this uh, kind of uh, viciousness about them. Whereas with American women, all you have to really say is one or two things, or do one or two things, and then she was just completely disinterested. After that, if for some reason you the little checklist that um, she had on there. If this guy says something really weird on this date, blink, he's done. You know, I didn't have that fear with these women. I felt like I could be myself, and I didn't feel like if I made a mistake or slipped up or did something goofy that that they would just throw me aside, and they didn't. And most of the time they would laugh about it. They thought it was cute. You know, and American women simply aren't like that, from my experience. Uh, and there rises another thing there. Uh, when I went on a date with these women, I didn't feel like I was being uh, scrutinized under like a intense lens. Like a lot of American women have these ridiculous checklists in their brain, um, where that they mentally check as they're on the date. Does he have a good job? Does he you know treat how does this guy treat me? Is he going to buy me nice things? Is he going to provide me with a good life? Check. Is he really attractive? Check. And their checklists are really long. I notice, and you can see this when you go to many personal sites, like dating sites. You can see this firsthand. You open up a personal um, profile of a woman, and right there you can see right away this long checklist of all these things that they want their date to meet before they'll even talk to them. And these women, when I was overseas dealing with them, they didn't have uh, these long mental checklists. It was the extent of their checklist was is he a nice guy? Check. Um, am I somewhat attracted to the guy? Check. And you know, can he provide me with and even the can he provide me with a good life wasn't necessarily a check you had to fill right then. It was more or less, does he have the potential? Uh, and even then, it wasn't does he have the potential. It was um, would I be happy enough with this guy for the rest of my life, even if he couldn't provide me with a good life? And that was if you hit that check right there, you're good. Uh, they had very simple standards, standards that most average guys like myself could meet. Versus American women had these ridiculous standards that they wanted their dates to meet, and 90% of them, 90% of guys can't meet those standards. Only the top 10% of men in America could meet those standards, and that's why women are so flaky, because they can never seem to find. Oh, I can never find a nice guy. Well, it's because your standards are ridiculous. You have this long checklist of ridiculous things that you want all these guys, that you want a guy to check off, and there's simply, most guys don't have those things. Uh, most of us are just average guys like me, and that's not good enough, apparently, for most women. They want that top 10% of guys who are successful, attractive, charming, all these things. And by the way, you have to be all these things, and you have to be not a dick. Um, and that's usually the last thing on their checklist. And they don't get to check that off until they actually really get to know the guy. Uh, because most men in America are forced to put on a show for these women. And like I said earlier, when I'm on a date with an American woman, I feel like I have to impress her, and then have to do all these things to meet all these demands that these women have for their women. So you really have to put on a show. So you really don't get to know if the guy is a dick or not until several months after you know the guy. And then, oh, finally, yeah, he meets this entire checklist thing that I had in my mind, but he's a dick. So now you've wasted a year of your time uh, chasing after this guy. You've been with this guy. You probably slept with him 1,000 times, and um, then you find out later he's a dick. Oh, go figure. You want the guy to put on a show for you, um, meet all your criteria, which most guys can't meet. And then later you find out he's a dick because he had to lie about most of the stuff, uh, or to get most of the things that you desire in a man. The guy does have to be a dick to get those things sometimes, and he ends up actually being a dick. Uh, so I guess that's my first. Since that's my first video, I mean, there's several other things I'd like to talk about, namely why foreign women are um, better matches for American men. Uh, and that's kind of the direction I'm going with these videos is foreign women are much better than the majority of American women. And much of that is to do, that is because most foreign women still have many of the traditional things that men look for, such as family values. Um, they have, their loyalty is much as a result of their family values. They do have stronger loyalties towards their husbands and their boyfriends, and because they have those family values and they are close to their family, um, they are kind of forced to act a little more appropriate because their family, it's kind of like if you have somebody in your family that's acting inappropriately and not up to the standards of what the family expects, then you kind of dishonor the family and you're kind of like an outcast. And nobody likes that in those types of cultures where you rely heavily on your family um, for emotional support. Um, so those are just a few things, and there's several other things too. I mean, it goes pretty deep as to what has caused this, and and the reasons why I believe um, dating foreign women is just, and most American men just don't know this because they haven't been outside the states, and the media simply does not allow them to think outside of the 52, or the continental United States, Canada, or Mexico. They just don't, they can't even fathom outside of that. They meet somebody from a foreign country, especially somebody like me. When I met somebody from a foreign country, you're just blown away. Uh, it's totally different. So yeah, that's kind of where I want to start with the videos, and then we'll see where it goes from there. So yeah, we'll see where it goes from there.